Hi, everybody. I'm Suzanne Lynch, and I am here. We're in the middle of the Self Care Challenge, and I am here with my dear friend Livia Shapiro. And Livia and I met like many years ago. And over the years, we just like love to know each other in more and different roles. Now she's a young mom. She has her daughter turning 1 in a week, so that's amazing. She has a website called ecstatigunfoldment.com. She offers online programs for both yoga teachers and regular people. She's a somatic psychologist. Is that true? Yes? Yes.
Yeah,
So she's
the appropriate term would be psychotherapist.
somatic psychotherapist, so she's like very wise in really what's going on often underneath the surface and can especially manifest in our bodies too. I mean, you can talk more about that, but she also um, teaches individual mentoring, and so she's just a fantastic resource. So I'm super excited she's here, and we're just having a conversation about self-care in this group. But I wondered if you had any thoughts.
Well, I think self-care with a little one is radically different than self-care when you don't have kids. So, the amount of time that we can devote to self in the context of being a mother is often much less than when we're not responsible for children. And I think that self-care in general has to be something that is changing and evolving and based on the circumstances of one's life, right? So if we can't expect that we can have 2 hours to do yoga
Yeah.
and these practices when our little one has to be fed every 20 minutes or something like that. So it has to really be evolving and changing, and I think that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned lately is that it has to be evolving, and also that a little bit goes a long way. I've noticed that a little bit can really go a long way. Like I used to do practices for a long time, like 2 hours every day, asana, meditation. Sometimes I do, but not always. And, really, if I can have an hour to myself every day, or even less, 45 minutes, that shifts entirely how I'm able to mother.
Wow.
So I've noticed that a little bit goes a long way more than I thought.
Right. And so it's like we talked before we started recording that I think about lowering the bar for all of us, because it's often not realistic with work and jobs and kids. And in my stage, like elder care issues are going on. So, I think like reframing it, like you said, like I used to be able to really dive in. And it was part of my work when I was teaching yoga to really explore that. But now, as a mom, maybe, I think what's really important are sleep and some movement and what we eat, and kind of reframing how could I care, like really care for myself well and realistically.
Well, the other thing as you're talking, what is coming up for me is how much the concept of self-care is now an industry. It's a market, it's an industry that is profitable. And so when we're working on developing self-care techniques or habits. I find it's like, what are the things that are like brushing your teeth, right? So, for example, when I get up in the morning, I always have some mate. It's like I can live without mate, right? But like it's like my thing. I get up, I make my tea, I sit down, I drink my tea. Now with my daughter Olive, it's a little bit different. Like I'm sitting with her while I'm drinking it. I'm not by myself reading the paper or something. But still, this ritual of getting up, making my tea, sitting down, drinking the tea before I do anything else, even if it's including her, still feels really nourishing for me. And, it's just like this one little thing, and it's built into my day, right? It's just built into my day. Or, for example, like taking a shower is really important to me. It helped, like, just showers are super important to me. And, a lot of times Olive is like playing right there in the bathroom with me or something. So it's not like it has to be so separate. But for me, I find it has to be just part of my everyday routine of brushing my teeth kind of behavior.
Right.
Because otherwise it's like, you have to remember that like there's so much of this self-care that's profitable and of an industry. And if we're making people tell us what to do, and it has to be this like hour-long thing that needs, help and, all this stuff, then we're really actually just playing into media marketing. It's not even really about caring for the self anymore.
Right, and it's like this perfectionism that I think affects women a lot, perhaps maybe in a different way than men in our culture. But this I have to have this perfect body, and I have to have the perfect look or the perfect skin. I mean, and there's something more. I like what you were talking about this is something that's automatic. I don't agonize whether to brush my teeth or not. I just do it, right? And so that's what I actually teach a lot in the health coaching that I do, is like, how can we automate these things? So it's not like I think about doing it. If I know like a shower is part of my self-care, it's going to make me feel really kind of like put together for the day and ready for action, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make that automatic. And like you said, it's like a whole new thing of how do I learn to do this with this other being that has these other needs, right?
Well, and I think self-care, I like that word, automating it. I mean, self-care for me is like psychological hygiene.
Yeah, psychological.
It's not this like special event. It's more like, it can be like once in a while getting a massage or facial or all whatever, something luxurious. I think it can be like that. That's so nice. But at a daily level, it's really, for me, it's much more like psychological hygiene.
Right. And you notice this profound difference in your mind and emotions when you are kind of in that groove that you're mindfully caring for yourself. And that's what I'm trying to get at too, that there's a level where we can feel like we're not hitting the mark, and we're and perhaps the bar is set way too high, and maybe just a cup of tea for 10 minutes sitting down and looking out the window would be my self-care for the day here, and that is like fabulous, that I was breathing, enjoying my tea, enjoying my child playing nearby, if that's what was going on. So I'm so glad you're mentioning these kinds of things that are a big help to you.
Well, and also I think when we are, especially with kids, when we're including them in it, we're actually teaching them good habits, right? Like when I include Olive in sitting down and having some tea, or sitting down and eating breakfast, or taking a 10-minute walk outside, or whatever it is, I'm actually taking the time to do yoga, right? Like just yesterday, just how the day ended up, my practice had to happen kind of during her afternoon nap, and she's notoriously not a great napper. And so she woke up. So, and I picked her up and I said, okay, if you don't want to go back to sleep, here's what's happening. We're doing yoga. So she came out, and you know what? She was totally happy to, mommy's rolling on the floor, she's rolling on the floor, and we just had such a sweet time. And, it's actually very psychologically healthy for children to experience their parents go into themselves. Yeah. It's really, really good for children to witness that. If we're always focused on the child, it's actually not that good for them. There has to be an oscillation between other and self. And so when we give the child the opportunity to when we model for them what coming into self really looks like, whoa, that is such a it's such a teaching and such a gift. And, Olive also really needs that time. She actually doesn't want to interact with people all day. She kind of wants to do her own thing.
Right.
And so I think, that's actually the foundation of these self-care practices is learning to turn in.
Right, learning to turn in, and that you are modeling this for your daughter because you want her to be able to do that too. And so many of us didn't have that modeled.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And this idea that especially with moms, or I think anyone in the helping profession also, this happens to, where there's I have just overextending one's boundaries to be helping, doing for others. And one of the things that I learned, I remember one day I was just desperate for a shower, and Olive was upset, and I just said, well, you're going to have to sit here and cry for 5 minutes because I really need a second. And I took a shower, and she cried the whole time I was in the shower. And I came back, and she was fine, and I felt better, and I was better able to support her. And I think what happens is we start getting obsessed with, is everybody else okay if I take time for myself? And it's a really important process of non-enmeshment, of individuation and differentiation, to be actually, I need to do this for myself first, and then I can help you. And I just need to tolerate you being freaking out.
Right. You know what? I'm so glad you just said that, because I remember the same that same thing when I had young kids. I had a spiritual director, and she asked me to once a month take a day for myself. Okay, so that I would go away, and Dad would stay with the kids once a month just for the day, and I would come home, and people would have they would just be still freaking out that I was gone.
Exactly. And they're going to freak out. It's fine.
And they are going to freak out, and that is okay. And I had to learn to be okay with that myself, because nobody's going to say, oh, go ahead, go take care of yourself, have a good time. They never say that, right? And so it is it was such a big deal for me to learn that. And so I'm so glad you are really voicing that concept, that it's something that we do it for ourselves, and in that we're actually modeling a behavior that is going to be helpful for the whole family here. Actually,
just the other day, my husband came home from work, and I had made us dinner, and I guess I was sort of wanting us to sort of sit. I wanted him to be available right away, and he just excused himself, and he took a shower, and took 15 minutes, and then we sat down together as a family and all that. And I noticed in myself being you, why are you getting her? But really, it's such a beautiful thing, actually, I think, for someone to be able to say, I can be with you in 15 minutes. Right. And so he's it's okay to take that time. And you know what? I survived. It was fine. It's not a big deal.
Right.
you know?
But then like to notice, I love that noticing, like, ooh, I am getting angry and resentful right now because you're taking care of yourself. Like,
and chances are maybe I hadn't gotten to do that yet that day.
Exactly.
Right.
And so I think a lot of what I did as a younger mother was like cook my resentment into the food. It was like kind of creeping out all these cracks. But I think that's really common, and to give voice to that, that in a certain way, we've been trained kind of to be martyrs, or at least maybe it's not in your generation, but certainly the generation above me, there was kind of like this mom as the martyr. And
yeah, for sure. I definitely see that in like my parents and in-laws and things like that in that generation. Yeah, for sure. I think that was a big teaching that, that got passed down that's not so healthy, that we can have a do-over about.
Right, that we can have a do-over, and instead of, constantly, it was, that taking care of others all the time. I remember I had a teacher who said to me, she goes, yeah, and you know what martyrs do? They punish. Like, there's like this really, so I feel like just saying that, what, that happens, that, at least for me, I had to really think about how, like, I couldn't even name what was going on. I think to name anger and name resentment was like the first step in that.
Right.
So, and then, well, what's standing in the way of me taking care of myself? And that's what we were talking about this week in the Facebook group. What were the obstacles? So it's like, I feel like
and some of the obstacles are real. Like, for example,
absolutely.
Sometimes, okay, so when Olive was smaller, I could take her to kind of any appointment, and it wasn't really a big deal. She just like sits in the car seat. And now it's starting to get a little better because she's, now she can like sit and play with toys for that amount of time. But there's been an interim period where it was really hard to take her like to acupuncture or something. Oh. And so, actually an obstacle for me to get an acupuncture appointment as part of my self-care, the obstacle is, do I have childcare? Can it be at a time when someone else can be with Olive? Because taking her is actually an obstacle. So sometimes there are legit obstacles, right?
And they're changing all the time.
They're always changing, right?
And so just to be aware of that, and aware that I think for me anyway, at that time, I was sort of, there was a tendency to just get lost in the caring for other people, and and as life goes on, I thought it would be easier now, but then the whole same thing, I'm navigating that with elder care, going to the ER when I least expect it. It's huge for women. So and probably men too, but I think in our roles of women, we have different phases and stages, and we're more affected by often by the family constellation. So I think that this whole idea of what can I do to lower the bar, make it so easy I can't say no. Like, I do a lot of 1 minute jumping jacks, watching a music video or something.
Right.
And I love what you brought up about the shower too. Like that, and then letting that be okay for the day. I have one last thing to ask you about, because several people talked about it in their obstacle, is that they get kind of frozen they want to do something, they don't do it because they don't have enough time, but they end up playing like Candy Crush or reading the news, and they get kind of stuck. Do you have any thoughts about that pattern?
So, yeah, I do actually. So a lot of times when you're getting that stuck pattern or you're kind of like in that inertia place, what's happening is we're in like almost like a freeze state in our nervous system. It's actually a sign of overwhelm where you're getting like barrage with information either from the outside or from within. You can get barrage of thoughts and sensations and feelings. So it can be an overwhelm that's coming at you or coming up from within you. And a lot of times that intensity makes us go, we're frozen and we're hypervigilant. And so we just start like scrolling on our phones or something.
Yeah.
And so what can really be, and that's a normal physiological and adaptable response that's present in our nervous system. Like if you got startled, what you would do is freeze and try to assess the situation. And so I think in our modern day that comes up actually a lot is that startle and freeze response. And so one of the best things that we can actually do is to just catch ourselves in that moment. And the breath has usually is being held. So if you can just create a little bit of movement or even like kind of like shake out your arms and your head a little bit, just kind of like mix up the organism of your body and kind of reassert your awareness.
Right.
But I think that,
go ahead.
Well, I think that that's actually psychologically what's happening is like a freeze or startle response that has become very innate in our everyday behavior, and it's a healthy response within the nervous system, but it's not adaptable to the moment.
Right. And so it's almost like I like what you said about, like moving our body in some way, shaking. It's like almost like waking up out of that state and then kind of redirecting, maybe like, oh, I have 1 minute. Could I go outside and take 10 breaths so I at least get some fresh air, for many people who just spend all their workday inside. That would be a self-care act. So,
right.
Anyways, excellent. Well, thank you so much. I'm so psyched we got to have this conversation, and I'm sure people will find it useful too. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us, Livia.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for asking.
Awesome.